Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Joining us live. We are back. You got your favorite throuple in the fantasy industry back at you. If you're not knowing, you know now. You are watching TradeBlocked, brought to you by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Dustin at FF Dusty Dog. Joining me, my co-host, we've got Hoov at the Hoov Tube. Hoov, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing beautiful. Earlier I was hanging out with you in the very last drinking and talking football
I know.
podcast. So I am completely honored to be taking you away to be your new co-host from a legend in this space, Jake. So we're gonna create some magic here, but it's the end of an era.
That's
It's
right.
definitely an end of an era tonight.
It is. It is. Also, my other co-host, we got Joel at the Joel Wirth. How are you doing, Joel?
Good. Finally got a Packer victory Tuesday to celebrate, so pretty happy about that. Put a whooping on the Colts, but yeah, good to got a lot of trade action, a lot of injuries, so forcing a lot of trade action in Dynasty. So got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of previewed the topic for the show this evening, Joe. We are going to be talking about trading for injured players in Dynasty. And specifically, we're going to be talking Puka, since he was a lot of people's first round draft picks, at least in redraft this year. Very highly valued in Dynasty, coming off that insane rookie season last year. So I think it's going to be really interesting just talking about the dynamics of how you trade for injured players, if you do or don't, and kind of strategies involved with that. So, yeah, lots of good stuff this evening. So let's get right into it. Talking a little theory to start with here, folks. So, Coop, I'm going to throw it to you first here. When do you think, when you're dealing with these injured players, when do you think it's best to be buying them? Do you, as soon as they get injured, are you like, yes, I like that guy, I like his long-term dynasty value, I'm going to make a trade now, or do you wait for his value to dip? How do you approach this situations like these?
I feel like with injured players, it's almost like I'm not the guy that's gonna like jump on and try to get an injured player right off the bat. But if you look at where people's mindsets are with things, they're probably more likely to trade a player earlier into the injury than they are later on. Like if they've held on to a player throughout that whole injury, they're waiting for that reward after that whole time. So I would say it's probably better to go after a player earlier, but the ideology I'm going to kind of keep in mind with this is how I've targeted TJ Hawkinson this offseason. And if you're going to trade for an injured player, you want to like make sure that they're coming back before the whatever you're giving up could value you in a sense. So I gave up a lot of players that I thought were going to be great in 2025, and that's when I think TJ Hawkinson is going to be back to 100% and healthy. And so that's kind of like my mindset is if you know that a player is going to be 100%, kind of almost give up the draft compensation around that time, when that player could go off. So I remember giving up players like Jalen McMillan, like a second round pick. I'm trying to remember who I all gave up, but a lot of young assets that probably will take a few years to develop. And sometimes you need to take time when you got injured players like that.
Joel, do you follow that kind of same strategy, or do you have a different idea of how you attack these players?
Yeah, Hoov hit on the point I wanted to make here, and that's if you want the best value on these players, if you're interested in going out and buying an injured player, you have to be the one that's going to assume the risk, right? You have to assume the risk on both the missing playing time and the fact that the player may miss more time than you expect, right? When Puka first went down, it was like, oh, it's going to be, he's on IR, so he's going to be, out 4 weeks at least, but it may be 6, it may be 7, something like that. So there's a lot of uncertainty there, but if you want to get a value for that player, you can't just go to that manager like after week 5 and say, okay, I want to buy Puka now. They're going to say, F you, man. I've been holding on to this guy for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Why should I give you a discount now? So if you want to get a value, if you want, be able to get a discount on these injured players because they are injured and you're going to obviously miss some time and you can either you're not playing for this year and you don't care if they're missing time, or you've got a team that can kind of take on that missing time but still be okay, and you just want this kind of hammer for the playoffs. You've got to be willing to take that risk and to get that discount. Otherwise, they're just going to tell you to go pound sand, because they've been holding all that risk the entire time. So if you want to get a discount, you have to be willing to take on that risk.
And that comes with any injured player. It's not just Puka.
Mhm.
It's not just TJ.
No,
it's
all
not just
in general.
Yep.
Right. So keep that in mind for all of our viewers out there. Dustin, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is I like to try to pounce right after the injury happens, just if you can catch the other manager tilting a little bit and just freaking out over like, oh my god, I just lost this player, what am I going to do? Maybe you can catch them at a soft moment and maybe get a little bit extra value out of the trade by taking on that injured player while they're tilting. So that's the only thing I have to add about that. But I agree with you guys totally. Like, it's better to do it sooner rather than later, because after a time they're just going to say, yeah, I've been holding on to this guy, why would I want to trade him away now? So
in my work
I'm with
league,
that.
I'm with you. You have to target the teams that are missing that value or that position. So in my work league, actually, I sent the trade before this, and I have a good feeling about it. I really do. I sent my boss. He has Jordan Love and Tua in our work league, 1 QB league. And so obviously, now he's down a quarterback. And so I got Kyler Murray and Jaden Daniels. Well, I have David Njoku, Isaiah Pacheco, Cooper Kupp. So I'm struggling a little bit. So I offered him Jaden Daniels and David Njoku for George Kittle and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I know he just picked up JSN off the waiver wire because I sent him my article and he read it over and went, oh yeah, my employee knows what he's talking about. So I'm like, hey, why not just go after a quarterback other than who's available? So I feel good about it. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like injuries, you never know how long that they're going to last. That's the point I was trying to make, is you never know how long things are going to last. So, you always kind of have to have that plan B, or know that you're going to have a longer sidetrack. So let's get into it onto the person that we're actually talking about today. We're going to be talking about Puka Nacua. And so Puka's current value currently on Dynasty Nerds is wide receiver 11, and on Sleeper, wide receiver 9. So obviously there's not very much of a difference between his Dynasty or redraft ranking in a sense. I did adjust the Sleeper rankings to be Dynasty as well. So you're kind of looking at Dynasty over 2. It's only small difference, but compared to the two positions, are you guys surprised at all? Do you think that he should be a little higher, a little lower, just based off of where you're seeing things? Joel?
I think that's about right. I might have him a little bit higher, but I could probably name 10 guys off the top of my head I might be okay with over him. So, yeah, I think that's about right.
Dustin?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty fair. I might have him a spot or two higher than what Dynasty Nerds have, but it's in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think that one fair criticism to make before we really get into comparing Puka's value, because we all know the upside with Puka and how great he can be with Matthew Stafford, but I think it's important for the viewers to also note is Matthew Stafford's not going to be there forever. That's kind of, one thing that we always keep in the back of our minds with aging quarterbacks and young, amazing wide receiver talent attached to that value as well. So that is a big question mark in my mind, is how great is Puka going to be after Matthew Stafford? What if they struggle? What if they're so good, that with Sean McVay's game planning, that they're almost like middle of the pack, that they just can't be in top contention for a quarterback, and they're kind of just middle of the pack, like the Broncos were for years, where they just kept bringing in all these guys because they couldn't be in the top 5 or whatnot. So, are you worried at all for like longevity reasons for Puka after Stafford?
Me, not really. The Rams feel like they have a pretty good front office here, and while I understand your point about, they could be kind of this middle of the pack, not really getting one of the top quarterbacks, but there always seems to be quarterbacks that are entering the free agency. And we saw they made that trade for Stafford, uh, figuring they wanted to move on from Goff. I feel like they're a franchise that would make a trade for a quarterback to instantly upgrade their squad. With how the salary cap is expanding and going up every year, I feel like that's more the move that they would make than try to draft a young quarterback and throw them right into the field right away.
Joel, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're okay with Sam Darnold because he's playing in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and this is like Kevin O'Connell is a Sean McVay guy. So as long as McVay's there, I'm confident the offense is going to be good and that they'll find a quarterback who can run it. So yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about Puka long term because of injury risk, right? I mean, that's the reason he fell to the 5th round, and he's hurt now. So that's much more of a concern for me than the team context.
Yeah, I'm going to put this out on camera. I might get torched for this, but it's okay. I want to go out publicly and say it as well. I like history repeating itself, and I want them to go after a Panthers quarterback that got benched. So, I want them to go after Bryce Young to be the successor to Matthew Stafford, and hopefully with an actual head coach that's going to teach him in a good organization. Maybe Bryce Young could possibly get fixed. Who knows? But that's where I'm going. That's where my mind's at. I feel like the Rams are almost too good to ever be that bad to be in a top contention for a quarterback. So why not go after someone like Bryce Young, former 1st overall pick that their organization's given up on? So let's look at Puka's value on. We're looking at long term. Let's say he has a quarterback long term with someone. Would you take any of these guys, or would you take Puka over any of these guys currently on Dynasty Nerds? Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver 6. AJ Brown, wide receiver 7. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 8. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 9. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 10.
With the Tua concussion, I would take him definitely ahead of Waddle right now. Maybe ahead of Tyreek. We'll see how that plays out, but I'm kind of nervous about that entire offense. So yeah, I could see like Tyreek's healthy and Puka's not. So yeah, I think Tyreek has to go ahead of him, but like I could see taking him over Waddle.
Dustin?
Yeah, I agree with Joel, although it's really, really close for me. But yeah, I agree. I think Waddle would be the only one.
Man, we've come on here and we've preached about Jalen Waddle how many times that I would feel wrong to discount Jalen Waddle. So I'm gonna say Jalen Waddle. I don't know what's gonna happen with Tua. I feel like, with Skylar Thompson and trying to run that offense, I think the Dolphins could be in contention for a top quarterback next year, unlike the Rams. The Rams could surprise people a little bit. That Dolphins team could end up pretty bad. So I feel better about the Dolphins getting a guy for Jalen Waddle long term than I do about the Rams. So I'm gonna go with, I feel like age wise, maybe I would say Puka over Tyreek, but at this point you can't really say that. So I feel like I would take all these guys still over Puka. Okay, so we're good with that. Right. So let's look at the 5 wide receivers that are going below Puka on Dynasty Nerds. We got Devonta Smith at wide receiver 12, Nico Collins at wide receiver 13, Roma Dunze at wide receiver 14, Drake London at wide receiver 15, and Chris Olave at wide receiver 16. So you taking any of these guys over Puka? Let's go opposite. Let's start with Dustin this time around.
I don't. Excuse me. I don't think so. Maybe the only one in consideration for me would be Nico. I love Nico Collins, but I think the rest of them are pretty firmly below Puka for me. Joel?
I agree. We need to start talking about Nico as a top 5 dynasty receiver. We're there, right? He's the unquestioned alpha in that offense. He's got an elite quarterback who's going to be with him forever. Basically, he's in a great offense. He's the alpha there. So we need to start talking about him as a top 5 dynasty receiver. So yes, I would take Nico definitely ahead of Puka, but I don't think I would take anyone else on this list over him. for Dynasty.
Okay, so you're saying top 5. So would you take Nico over Amon-Ra? Because that's who's 5.
I'm right there. Yeah.
Ooh. Shit. Ooh, okay. This is a good episode. I'm glad everyone's here tonight because I'm glad I wasn't a part of that alone.
I would let me be clear. I don't think their dynasty value is there, so I would want something else. But I would make that swap in a vacuum.
Man, okay, I feel you. I'm good with it. It's crazy to say out loud. I would take Nico over Puka. Roma Dunze, I think I'm there as well, even though we haven't seen it. It's everything that I've said and more about Shane Waldron being super toxic for the potential for Caleb Williams. And I feel like he'll be gone by week 10. I really do. You're seeing it early, and with even how the Vikings are, everyone thought that they should just discount the Vikings and that they're going to not be good. I mean, I was even like starting to fall back in with everyone else and thinking that the Bears could outperform expectations, even with Shane Waldron, just because the Vikings lost JJ McCarthy. But I mean, if Kevin O'Connell can even like resurrect Sam Darnold in a sense to make them better, the Bears aren't going to be great. And I think Shane Waldron will be out of there if they're looking up the rest of the NFC North division by week 10, pointing the finger. So Roma Dunze will be fine long term. I really believe that in my heart. I believe that he is, he's the wide receiver 2 in that offense, in my opinion. And give it a year and he'll be wide receiver 1. And that's no disrespect to DJ Moore. That's just such a compliment to Roman Dunze and what he could be, especially with the young relationship with Caleb Williams that they established. I saw it. I mean, I've watched them at a Special Olympics charity event on Wednesday before the draft, and literally the 2 guys that were like going out and making it about the kids the most, Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. I can't tell people enough how great of leaders they are. Like no disrespect to, every other athlete that was there and working with the kids, but you could see how much they enjoyed working with the kids, even in the most important weekend of their life, Roma Dunze. So can't say enough about great things about Roma Dunze, his person, his player, everything. Going back to Puka, Drake London, I'm good drafting Puka over Drake London and Chris Olave as well after seeing how things are starting this year. So, yeah, I'm only there with Nico and Rome.
Right on.
Okay, so we got some chat questions. Let's take a little pause now that we got through that. What do we got in the comment section for us?
All right. So this comes from Andrew. This is a 14-team full PPR. I have Achane, Connor, Jefferson, Adams, and Bowers. Do I flex Alec Pierce over Christian Kirk this week? So we're looking for a flex play.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
I don't either. I just want to double check before I come out and say who the Colts play. I just want to double check.
Colts play the Bears.
Yeah. Okay. I feel good about it. I'm not like super out on Christian Kirk, but that Jaguars offense has to prove a lot to me before I start him over Alec Pierce. So Alec Pierce is showing out this year. He's proven that he's not a name to discount in that Colts wide receiver room. When you got Josh Downs out, he's going to step up and he's going to make plays. Everyone thought that Donnie Mitchell, Alec Pierce was going to take his opportunities. I don't know. I think Alec Pierce might be taking Josh Downs' opportunities with his vacancy. He's really producing. So I'm here. I'm here for it. I think it's worth a shot.
I was going to say, just real quick, I think that Josh Downs is going to be the guy that Anthony Richardson eventually starts looking to, but he's got a high ankle sprain. It's like he's not back yet. They were talking he was 50-50 for this week, and he was still inactive. So I said it's still going to be at least a couple of weeks until he's up to speed. And right now, Alec Pierce is the guy that Richardson is looking to. I mean, he's been really bad throwing the ball outside of those 3 bombs, but Pierce is the one guy he's got a connection with. So yeah, and Kirk's just not part of the offense right now. And they got Buffalo this week, which just completely shut down Miami last week on Thursday. So I don't hate this move.
It's a Gabe Davis revenge touchdown week. So
That's true.
Yeah, I was going to go with Pierce as well. Although going up against that Bears defense, it gives me a little pause. But as you said, Joel, the Bills defense also very formidable. So I lean Pierce, and just hopefully you'll see more magic like we saw in week 1 versus what we saw in week 2 against those Packers.
And again, what do you win if you're right with Christian Kirk? I mean, it's 6 catches for 60 yards. I mean, and that's what's he got, like 5 targets all year? He's just not part of the offense right now.
I would like to add something to this argument. Can we just also take a pause on this idea that like Anthony Richardson, yeah, he wasn't the greatest passer. I will admit that. But this is not about the Colts offense being bad. This is about the Packers defense finally getting every piece together and working right. And I even wrote about that in my article last week for Optimist. It felt like a trap bet. I didn't take Colts money line because that felt like a trap. It felt like the Colts were destined to win by like a field goal. And so I was like, this feels like a trap. Everyone's going to run to this, thinking Anthony Richardson is going to smash the Packers with Malik Willis starting. And it just felt like a trap from the start. But I took the money line thinking that they'd win by a field goal, and I was wrong. But man, this is a show that the Packers could be so good that they'll be like the Saints back when they lost Drew Brees during that stretch and Taysom Hill just came in and like just kept winning. I could see this happening with this Packers team, even with Malik Willis starting, because they have so many good young weapons. And, depending how the schedule goes, I could see this team, winning at least if Jordan's out 6 weeks, I could see them at least going 3-3. If he's out four games, I could see him going 2-2. So don't sleep on this Packers team, even without Jordan Love.
I ladder bet the hell out of that game, and if Josh Jacobs wouldn't have fumbled at the goal line, I would have made a shit ton of money on that game.
Yeah, I would. My parlays have not been doing too hot this season, but my fantasy teams have been doing great. So, do we have any other fantasy trades before we get back to Puka Nacua?
Nothing else in the chat right now.
All right. So,
but everyone that's out there, please, if you have any sit questions, trades, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them.
Absolutely. So we just broke down the value over at with our partners over at Dynasty Nerds. Let's move over to Sleeper, where everyone's at, where everyone is drafting, and I'm sure that this will look more familiar than Dynasty Nerds maybe to some of our viewers. So 5 wide receivers above Puka Nacua's ranking on Sleeper. We have Jamar Chase at wide receiver 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver 5, A.J. Brown at wide receiver 6, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 7, and Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver 8. This is Dynasty rankings on Sleeper. Would you take Puka over any of these guys currently?
No.
I don't think I would have taken Puka over any of those guys at the beginning of the season or in draft season. So, yeah, I'll say no.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Pretty easily.
And that's where, when we start looking at the second tier, you're going to start realizing, like, okay, let's obviously look at this and realize that this is a massive drop-off, like we talked about last week with Isaiah Likely. This is identifiable. Like, you can see this massive drop-off. If Puka's nowhere even close at wide receiver 9, these are the guys that you need to be targeting as wide receiver 1s in your drafts next season, because long term, I mean, maybe not Amon-Ra St. Brown with how great Jameson Williams has been, but the rest of these guys seem pretty locked in long term to be a wide receiver 1. So I feel like there's no debate on any of these guys. Let's look at the 5 wide receivers currently below Puka Nacua on Sleeper. We're good with that. All right. So 5 wide receivers currently below Puka on Sleeper. We got Devontae Adams at wide receiver 10, Drake London at wide receiver 11, Chris Olave at wide receiver 12, Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver 13, and Mike Evans at wide receiver 14. Now, this is a pretty good tier, actually. You know, we talked about the tier difference, but this is a pretty damn good tier. Are you taking any of these guys over Puka at wide receiver 9?
I'd rather have Puka than all these guys.
Yeah, same.
Brandon Ayuk is calling out to me, and he hasn't showed it to me this year, but you know, he has the opportunity to show it to me without Debo, without CMC these next few weeks. He could really step up and really, really produce in a explosive offense, you know. So I maybe it's my 49ers bias coming out in me and not wanting to take a Ram over 49er, but I am very, very, very close on Brandon Ayuk with Puka Nacua long term. it's the same argument. I mean, you could make with like Deebo Samuel finished 3 spots below him in 2024, 2023. So it's not that much of a difference. I mean, Cooper Kupp's extremely valuable, but so is Deebo on the other side. So Brandon Ayuk, long term, I know what I'm going to get with Brock Purdy. I don't know how long Matthew Stafford's got. I think give me Brandon Ayuk over Puka.
I mean, I get it. I don't agree, but I get it.
I want to hear from all the people out there. You guys go ahead, drop a comment down below. Would you take Brandon Ayuk over Puka? I want to know. I want to know if I'm outnumbered on this because I'm questioning it, but I feel confident in it as well. The logic's there. So I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks. So drop a comment.
So if you had Puka and somebody offered you Ayuk straight up, you would take that deal?
I would take that deal.
Okay.
I'm curious to know if I'm alone in that. I feel like we got it. All
right.
We got one. BA for sure over Puka. So we got one more opportunity. We got Jerry saying Puka. So 1-1. I feel like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put a poll at the end of the night. I'm going to go out. I'm going to put a poll on Twitter. Make sure you guys go ahead and vote. And we're going to break this down. Would you rather have Puka or Ayuk? So.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to revisit this at the top of the show next week just to see what everyone says here and whether you're in the right or in the wrong.
Hey, I'm always in the wrong. I learned that on Saturday after hyping up Jalen Polk. I am always in the wrong. Don't do it. We can't have differing opinions. It's illegal these days. So
all right.
We are done with all the sleeper rankings unless you have anything else to add with these guys.
No, but we do have another question in the chat here before we hit our next segment. I think we should hit this up. So this is from Aiden. It's a 10-team PPR. At QB have Kyler and Jaden Daniels. Running backs are Breece Hall, Pacheco. I'm going to say it's Ramondre, Warren, Braylon Allen. Wide receivers are Marvin Harrison, Nico, Higgins, Demarcus Robinson, Rome Odunze. Tight end is Andrews. I'm going to say Mark Andrews. And then defense kicker. What do you think I should do? I'm 2-0. So is there any moves that you would make for this squad to become even more competitive?
Okay. Is this Dynasty or Redraft? This is going to answer the question very well. If we can get some clarity on that, whether it's Dynasty or Redraft, but I'm going to answer it as Dynasty in the meantime. The first thing that calls out to me is you only have one tight end. You only got Mark Andrews. It is Redraft.
It is Redraft. Yep.
Okay. So pull that team back up. Let me take a quick look at that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that you really have to. I mean, I have Kyler and Jaden in my work week like I was talking about earlier. I'm currently trying to trade Jaden just because it's a 1 QB league and trying to get some value out of that. But Pacheco, he's probably going to be out most of the season. But you got maybe trading one of these wide receivers, maybe trading Higgins now that he's back and healthy, maybe trading him for a running back and trying to find a replacement in the meantime for Pacheco. I wouldn't bank on Braylon Allen on a regular basis, but Breece and Ramondre as your 1-2 punch right now, that's a great running back room. And then you got Marvin, you got Nico. I mean, Demarcus Robinson's gonna be the wide receiver to have in Los Angeles for the next few weeks. So even Rome, once they start figuring things out. So I think you're in good standing. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't make too many moves. If I was going to make any move, it would be Higgins, but I can't be picky right now. It's too early into the season. You're 2-0, baby. Just celebrate.
Yeah, they go on to say, I got offered Mixon for Higgins and Robinson. Is that a move you'd make?
If Mixon wasn't banged up, I would consider it a little bit more.
If he was healthy, I'd think about it because you're losing Pacheco. But then if you give up Higgins and Robinson, now you're losing a lot of receiver depth, and now you're going to be really thin there. So, and I think you're okay at running back. Like you've got Braylon and Brees Hall. So you've got that spot covered. Like if Brees Hall gets hurt, then Braylon's going to be an absolute stud. So you've got that handcuff in there. You got Ramondre. If Pacheco comes back, you get that extra juice for the playoffs. So yeah, I think you're in pretty good shape. I wouldn't force anything. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is just too much value to give up for Mixon, especially since he's banged up.
All right. This is what the Hoov hotline also wants to add is that if you got that good of a wide receiver room, you literally could throw out Braylon Allen as your running back too, if anything happened injury related, whether Montre or Brees was out 1 week, and you got a lot of volume coming in that wide receiver room between Nico and Marvin if things keep going the way that they are. So, I mean, you could even win just going 0 RB in one position with Braylon Allen for a week. So I think you're in good standing.
All right, we got some more questions here to address in the chat. This one from JD Finns fan. Gesicki or Henry half PPR?
Joel, you can go first on this one.
It's got to be Henry. Like Henry was just the usage was like he was terrible in week 1, but like on Sunday he was just getting like he was the number 1 target by far, and it wasn't even close. So yeah, Gesicki's he's a journeyman at this point. He's going to have a few spike games just because of the offense, but I think Henry's a pretty big part of their offense. So I think you got to lean Henry here.
I keep talking myself into Mike Gesicki, but I'm not going to do it this time. Like I bet on both of these guys actually last week. I was in week 1. Yeah, week 1 when they faced each other. I bet on both these guys anytime touchdown. I really did think that they have a good opportunity to make a pathway in these rooms. Same thing with like Jalen Polk, why I was preaching about him so much. It's like him and Hunter Henry. That's the only guys I'm like really looking at early into the season. And Mike Gesicki, they've been needing a tight end for years. It's the same reason why we thought they were going to go after Brock Bowers or Dalton Kincaid, or like last 2 years they've needed a tight end. So why isn't Mike Gesicki being utilized? I don't know, but the answer's got to be Hunter Henry right now.
All right, next one. This is from Tanner. Do I get Hubbard or Steele from the waiver wire?
Not Hubbard. Jesus.
Are you really going to talk yourself into Carson Steele though?
No, but I hate Chuba Hubbard, so
I think even though you hate it, you just got to go with Hubbard. I mean, I'm not like super excited about Carson Steele. I don't think
I'm not either.
Going to come in either. It's like these are barely rosterable people, in my opinion. Chuba Hubbard maybe a little bit more.
But like Steele, you can hope for just a garbage touchdown. You're never getting that from Hubbard.
I don't know. Jack, our previous guest, he tweeted about it earlier, and he said, I think the answer to which running back in Kansas City is going to be the guy is neither. And it's like, I
think it's Travis Kelce.
It's pretty accurate. It could be Xavier Worthy, doing a lot of
right.
Yeah. So I could see them being fine, but I'd probably go Chuba over Carson Steele.
Same.
I got Carson Steele and
Scott
Scott Fishbowl too.
Nice. All right. Another question from Andrew here. We got Richardson versus the Bears or Baker versus the Broncos.
Baker.
That was the easiest. Right now.
That was the easiest. And I hate betting against Anthony Richardson. Baker is the most underrated quarterback in this league, and Derek Carr is pushing him right now. But it's I don't know if it's Clint Kubiak or whether it's Derek Carr right now. I'm gonna give a little more credit to Clint Kubiak, but man, Baker is just so underrated. You got to give him all the credit in the world. I think he could have a great game.
I mean, Jeff Hafley just put the blueprint for how to stop Anthony Richardson on tape. It's you rush for, you stay in your lanes, don't get over aggressive, keep the contain, and force him to beat you with his arm, and don't let him beat you deep. And they couldn't do anything all game long. Jonathan Taylor was the only thing they had going on offense. So, yeah, I think it's got to be Baker right now.
Jeff Hafley's such a dog. As soon as that signing happened, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly who they needed to go after. Oh, I'm excited about this Packers defense. I've drafted them so many times this offseason. So great choice. Anything else?
Yeah, we got a couple more here. This is from Millie. Says, "What's up, fellas? Juwan Jennings, D-Rob, Mooney, Judy, Odunze, Myers, or Tyler Johnson for the Cooper Cup replacement on your squad?"
If I had to rank them, Joel, you want to go first?
I'm still going Odunze. I think there's something there, and I think eventually Caleb Williams is going to get straightened out. It may take some time, but I think he's the highest upside player here.
I don't like saying that these other two are very close to Odunze, but I got to give a little bit of credit, just weekly basis. Jacoby Myers, like, I believe that he was the target leader in Las Vegas this last week versus Baltimore. So he's getting targeted. I believe that he was quietly a top 30 wide receiver last season as well. So Jacoby Myers isn't someone that I'm sleeping on. He's always very underrated. And like we talked about with Robinson, he's the guy to have in Los Angeles right now with Kupp and Puka out. So D-Rob and Myers are two guys that I would for sure keep my eyes on. But Odunze probably is the right choice right now. I mean, Mooney's not even the right choice in Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. I think Odunze is the right choice. Although I'm keeping my eye on Tyler Johnson. I think he could be sneaky productive here over the next handful of weeks since both Kupp and Puka are out.
Or just go get Jordan Whittington, who's probably the answer in LA.
You know, okay, we got an answer. It is Jordan Whittington. Why haven't I read that at all? Why hasn't anyone said that? Why is tonight at 8:40 p.m. the first time that I've heard someone talk about Jordan Whittington? That's crazy. It's too late for this. Okay.
All right. We've got one more here queued up. A start sit question here. Should I start JSN or Pickens this week?
It's got to be JSN. Jesus.
It's got to be JSN. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, man. I feel so good. Oh, so much JSN hype this offseason. I feel like the mayor of JSN town right now, baby.
Oh, and you should feel good about that.
Also, Aiden said I also got offered Nico for JT. I'm smashing that. I'm doing that all day long.
Yeah. I think that, okay.
100%.
I don't know. Okay, that one's actually, I'd have to think about that overnight. That's too reactionary. I would have to sit on that one for a little bit. But that's
I've got the jersey behind me, and that's a full smash for Nico.
Oh, wait, you're saying to get Nico?
Yeah.
Because I thought he had Nico, and he'd be getting rid of Nico.
You said he was offered Nico for JT. So I'm smashing that deal.
Well, no, he has Nico on his team. I went back and looked. He's got.
Okay. Then I'm saying hell no.
Nico.
My bad. My bad.
That's what I mean. Like, even though I get it, like, but you don't have to go after that high profile of a running back. You know, for T. Higgins, you could go after someone more.
JT scares the hell out of me because I'm worried about that offense. We'll see when Josh Downs gets back. Yeah, that team looks really bad.
I had a lot of hopes for Latu, and he is not living up to those expectations. Dallas Turner, on the other hand, baby, with Brian Flores, I drafted both the IDP leagues. Make sure you guys go ahead and do an IDP league because that is so much fun, so much better than defenses, 100%.
Oh, God.
So, what else we got in the comment section?
Millie just had follow up. He said, all those guys are on my waiver, so Odunze or Myers. Y'all don't think Jennings is going to ball?
He could. I still think it's going to be Ayuk and Kittle because Kittle smashes whenever Debo's out. So, yeah, I think there's an opportunity for Jennings, but I'd still rather have Odunze.
My thing is, as a 49ers fan, I know what Juwan Jennings' role is. You know, it's a lot of he's so good at just like setting up plays, and he doesn't have to be the center of attention. He's a good facilitator in that sense. Great blocking, but wide receiver. That's why he got like I wasn't franchise tagged.
Exclusive
tag, yes. because he's that good, and there's a market for players like Juwan Jennings. So I don't know if he's like fantasy relevant, but he's obviously relevant in the sense that he'll be on the field. I think that you're looking at a lot of Jordan Mason. You're looking at a lot of George Kittle, and you're looking at a lot of Brandon Jennings for the next few weeks to come. But Jennings will have a little value, but is it startable? Not compared to what I think of a Dunze and Myers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that cleared out our queue in the chat. So do you want to talk some actual trades here with Puka?
I am, but I am a Niners fan as well, and it has been absolutely miserable. So I don't need to hear it. I've lost how many Super Bowls? My dad's a Chiefs fan too, so I've lost. It's been tough. It's been tough.
That's rough, dude.
But from a Dolphins fan, it can't be as bad as that. That's for sure. So let's look at some Puka Nacua trades. Let's get into it because we talked about him so much. I'm kind of curious. I feel like I actually might have undervalued these a little bit, cooking these up originally, but I could be wrong, and I might talk you guys into it. So full PPR. Let's go Puka Nacua or a 2025 first and a 2026 second. Are you making that move?
I want the Puka side.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Think about it for a second, but yeah.
Is there a scenario where you feel like the other side could be more valuable?
Yeah, I mean, if the injury is worse than they're letting on, and he's out for most of the year, then then if you're not getting the value this year, then the picks become more valuable. But I don't think that's the case.
Okay, if you're a non-contending rebuilding team, what side would you go after? Not a contending team, just straight rebuilding. Would you want a core wide receiver in Puka, or would you want the picks to even out your team?
Like we made this point. Injury. Yeah, we Josh threw a trade in our chat today, and I made the point that like Puka's the perfect option here, right? Because you get the elite player that you can just stash, and he's not hurting your total points, so he's not hurting your draft position. So yeah, I would if I'm a contender or a rebuilder, I want Puka in that situation.
Yeah, so I guess to the point you kind of made earlier, Joel, like he dropped in the draft because of injury concern. I guess you have to be all in on like this is not going to be something that you kind of see long term from Puka. Sure. As a continuously injured player, that this is more of a fluke injury and you're expecting him to return to full form and have a great career from here on out. So I guess it really depends on how you feel about Puka and his durability going forward. So if you're not convinced that he can stay healthy, then I think you'd want to take the picks. But I do agree, like Puka would be the guy because he's so young yet.
The point I want to make is that his durability is why he dropped in the draft in the first place at BYU. I mean, he showed what he had at BYU, but that's why he dropped, is because he's already starting to show injuries in college. So there's reasons to trade Puka right now. Like there's an injury history. Like you could break this down. This actually is like one of the top tier players that, in my opinion, where you most likely got Puka is you got him like via free agency, via waivers, whether it's a 4th round draft pick or 3rd round draft pick. You got him at such a great value that if you're a rebuilding team, getting a 1st and a 2nd for this guy and rebuilding your team with him, that is like the prime candidate right now. I feel like that can be someone else's problem. Let me get another talented player with a 1st and a 2nd, and maybe even like trading that 1st for another player that I think is going to produce this year, and trying to trade that value, flip it, and immediately get another piece right away that maybe it changes my luck this year. So I could talk myself into the other side in a lot of scenarios.
I guess the one scenario I would say I would do it, like the pick is just going to be more liquid. It just always is. So, I mean, if you're trying to like package picks or something like that, and trying to go after big game, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or something like that, then maybe the pick lets you do something like that more than Puka would. But it just in a vacuum, I would much rather have Puka.
For sure. So let's look at another one then, see if I can talk you into that.
Can I cut you off here? We got
crazy.
another trade question in the chat here.
Go crazy.
This is
Woo!
from Kevin, the credit guy. Got
Appreciate
offered
it.
Ramondre and an early third, 25 for a late 25 first.
If you're a contender, I'm all for it. Ramonder's the guy there, and he signed the contract, so he's got that role for the next couple of years. So yeah, and like a late first is probably just gonna be another running back next year, and that's gonna have some uncertainty. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to win this year, I'm all for that trade.
Mm-hmm.
I made this move without the third about a year ago. I traded 2025 first for Ramondre Stevenson. So I'll stand by it. This is when he's finally producing and he's showing, especially with a lot of running backs dropping off. Ramondre quietly could sneak his way back into the top 10 at the end of the year. Who knows? So I'm here for it. I like Ramondre a lot this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We're all in agreement there.
Appreciate your generous donation as well.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
All right, next trade you got there.
Oh, okay. So we got in a full PPR as well, Puka Nacua or Jackson Smith and Jigba, a 2025 second and a 2026 second. Did last week's performance for JSN prove to you that you're ready to move on from Puka? Joel?
Man, this is close.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I knew it. Okay.
If I was a team that like had Puka and needed that receiver, like I think I'm a contender, but that losing Puka is hurting me. Yeah, then I would probably do this.
Dustin?
Yeah, I would probably take the JSN side. I really like him. I guess I've never been the biggest Puka believer, even after his unbelievable rookie season last year. I guess I've never been fully convinced that that's something that he'll be able to sustain. And JSN just had the pedigree coming out of college. He had the draft capital. And I think, we're starting to see that now come into form. And then a couple seconds on top of it. Yeah, one's 2026, but that's not so far out anymore. So yeah, give me the JSN side.
Yeah,
Although it is really, really close.
It's not hard to see where this smile is leading. I am definitely biased in this one. But, okay, this is my question. This is my question to you and all the people watching out there is how many weeks before that 2026 second drops off of this trade value? And then how many weeks until that 2025 second starts dropping off of this value? And we start looking at Puka Nacua straight up for JSN. I would give it 6 weeks. I feel very good about that. JSN is about to go off this year, and I hope that you all went and got many, many shares of him. Many, many shares. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Don't hate
it. We're gonna hold on, and we're gonna hold on to the Seahawks offense, and we're gonna change it up to a half PPR for all of our half PPR viewers out there with their fantasy league. So, Puka Nacua or Kenneth Walker in the 2025 second. How are you feeling about
it? This is, I mean, even in half PPR, this is easy Puka for me.
Yeah, I would still take Puka on this one.
I think even without the injury to Walker, I'd still like. What's the point of doing this now? Like, Ken Walker's hurt, and he's probably going to be out for a couple of weeks. So, what's the point?
Let's say it's Dynasty. Obviously it's Dynasty 2025 second. Like, Kenneth Walker is someone that is massively always underrated. Like at one point, was he a little bit overrated? Yes, I can agree to that. But his drop off has been crazy. I mean, he's being ranked down at like wide receiver 14. I think that he is basically the borderline wide receiver 12, wide receiver 13, like right off that drop off of running back 1, 2. And so Puka Nacua is someone that in the games that he plays, like obviously he's going to help you win your week, but Kenneth Walker at his position also can be a player that helps you win your weeks too. So in a half PPR where Puka's getting these constant receptions, maybe I could talk myself into Kenneth Walker in 2025 second. So especially if it's a scenario where I got Puka at a great value, 3rd round, 4th round draft pick, free agency, whatnot. If I'm trading that value for Kenneth Walker in the 2025 second, in my mind, I'm writing that off like a tax write-off in a sense. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I could have, but I'm also getting Kenneth Walker in a 2025 second for what I invested in a 3rd round pick. So I could talk myself into it too.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it's not like Charbonnet's been stepping up here in Kenneth Walker's absence to take away any of that workload. So Kenneth Walker will, when he comes back, he's going to return to form, and you're not going to have to worry about Charbonnet eating into any of his workload he had before the injury.
I mean, to be clear, I think Charbonnet sucks, but I don't think Kenneth Walker can stay healthy, so I don't think he gives you anything that Puka doesn't.
That's right. I mean, it's 2-2 now, guys. So I even got the comment section on my side, and that never happens ever. So this is a good week. This is a damn good week. Comment section is listening, and they are preaching facts. But let's switch it up. Let's talk about one of Wisconsin's own. We'll hold on to the half PPR value, half PPR Puka Nacua or Josh Jacobs in a 2025 second.
It's the same. Just give me Puka.
Really?
I don't.
Really? After everything that you've seen out of Josh Jacobs, you're still going to stand by that? I mean, like, sure,
this is a wide receiver versus running back. I would just rather have the wide receiver.
Yeah, and what I love what we saw out of Josh Jacobs this last week. I just, we saw the fumble, which I'm not a fan of, and I know that was a concern coming into the season with him. And I don't know. I'm just not the biggest believer in Josh Jacobs. Love what he does for my squad. Don't get me wrong. But for Dynasty long-term value, I'm just not sold on him.
He's a 26-year-old running back. He's not going to have any Dynasty value going forward.
But here's the secret is that his successor, Marshawn Lloyd, that was his knock too, is that he was fumble heavy too.
I agree. 100%.
So I don't think it's going to be a scenario where like I hope he doesn't do this. I hope he doesn't become the new Melvin Gordon. But like if he starts fumbling a little bit, I don't think it's going to like hurt him, especially when there's nobody behind him right now, like really knocking on the door.
Oh, don't you do Eric Wilson that way?
Emmanuel Wilson's dog.
He's
so good that I can't even remember his name.
Damn right off the practice squad. But you really couldn't see yourself going after Josh Jacobs for the value of Puka in a half PPR.
No,
not for Puka. Too much.
Get out of
here. And I fully expect Jacobs to be the Packers running back next year and like clear running back one, just because I don't trust Marshawn Lloyd to do the things that he's going to need to do to get on the field. But I just think Puka's way too valuable.
I am feeling so good. You guys can disagree with me all you
got the chat on your side.
Well, I got the chat on my side. I got God. I'm good, baby. So, okay. So we'll switch it up from the half PPR. Maybe that's where our value's off. And let's go to a tight end premium and talk about someone that has completely outperformed expectations. I don't know. Maybe he's even more valuable than Puka Nacua at this point. We're going to talk about rookie tight end Brock Bowers or Puka Nacua. Who would you rather have at this current moment? You got to think about it. Would you have traded Puka Nacua for the 106 in most fantasy drafts this season?
I told you guys before the show that I wanted to talk about Brock Bowers, and this is why. I was offered Amon-Ra St. Brown straight up for Brock Bowers in a full point tight end premium league today. And I don't think I'm going to do it.
Dustin, do you want to take it? Because I can take it.
So I'm taking Bowers here. I'm sold.
Okay, I'll take it. I mean, Brock Bowers, dynasty-wise, you have to look at the first 2 weeks and go, okay, that's dynasty tight end one. Is the way that he's doing it, that's tight end one. Sam Laporta, was super touchdown dependent. You knew that there was going to be a drop off.
He is much more sustainable than
LaPorta.
Exactly.
I can see it. I can see it long term wise. I mean, even like when TJ Hawkinson is back and fully healthy, I still think I like Brock Bowers, especially with the age difference long term. So if you're looking at like a Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Brock Bowers, I mean, I don't know, especially with Jameson Williams being there, that Amon-Ra, it's hard to admit, but I don't know if he ever could finish as the wide receiver one. Like I know that Brock Bowers has a future of finishing as the tight end one. So
like in full point tight end premium,
you.
Bowers might be the most valuable non-quarterback asset. I mean, that's within the range of possibilities.
You mean like over like JJ and
in full point premium? Yeah, I think he could be. In that format, tight ends who put up like 100 catch tight end is insanely valuable. Insanely valuable.
You need to say something because I can't keep doing this. Dustin, say something. Dustin, say something.
I don't know if I can get there. I mean, okay, well, let's just say for this trade in particular, like if you are, I can see taking Bowers here over Puka because I'm not 100% sold on Puka. But with just a 2-game sample of Brock Bowers, I don't know that I can get fully on board with that, though. I mean, even in a full point premium, it's just that just feels like too much. It just feels like too much. But
it's spicy tonight. I felt it. I felt it earlier. I knew it.
Think about this. If Amon-Ra gets 110 catches and Bowers gets 60, that is more valuable than Amon-Ra's 110. You got to consider the format. And so if Bowers is 100 catch tight end, which I think is within the realm of possibility, who scores 8 touchdowns, that's literally the most valuable non-quarterback asset in the format.
So you don't have an argument on me.
Going to have.
So it's basically a combination of Evan Engram. It's a combination of Evan Engram and Sam LaPorta last year. So if you think Bowers can be that, that's an insanely valuable asset. And Hoov is right. Like Amon-Ra is never going to be the wide receiver one. If Brock Bowers is the tight end one in a full point tight end premium, it's massively valuable.
Like as you're seeing the drop off of like, okay, now I'm going to get canceled by the Swifties for this. But you're seeing the drop off of Travis Kelce right before your very eyes. Really, he's a third receiving option on his own team. So this is the guy that was dominant over the tight end position for years until Mark Andrews finally like knocked him off his throne. Brock Bowers could do that. Like Brock Bowers could hold that for like.
What if Bowers gets a real quarterback next year?
But that was going to be my question is in this current offense with what they have right now, do you see Brock Bowers commanding that many targets, especially over Devontae Adams, who's still there? And do you think this offense is going to be high powered enough to support him with the current cast? Could they go out and get a quarterback next year? Sure, it could happen. I don't know how much I trust this Las Vegas front office to make these right decisions. So I guess that's the bigger question.
How many targets did Jacoby Myers get last year? 120, something like that. Like Bowers could just take all those targets. This could be a 2-man target tree, and it's just Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers.
Dude, like if Quinn Ewers didn't shave that mullet, I would have been like all in on him being a Raider and being like the next guy to throw to Brock Bowers 100%. That would have been him and Gardner and Aiden O'Connell as your quarterback room. That's the most Mark Davis-ass quarterback room I've ever seen before in my life. Quinn Ewers, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. Welcome to Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, where the stars have arrived.
See, like I would be concerned that it ends up being like Daniel Jones or something like that. That would suck. But what if it's Bryce Young going to Vegas instead of Los Angeles?
Okay, I'm here for that. I mean, like I could totally see that. You're gonna have a little Crimson Tide, but that's a big thing about the Raiders too. Is that, in my opinion, I've always viewed the Raiders as more of like them going after like Georgia Bulldogs than they do after people from Alabama, you know? And it's almost like you can draft teams, you know, players from different programs and whatnot, but it's a melting pot. And sometimes, you know, Georgia and Alabama players, the melting pot doesn't, you know, mesh very well. So I don't know. You know, I could see Bryce Young going to LA, then I could see him going to Las Vegas. But I could be wrong.
I don't think he's probably going anywhere, but I mean, it's interesting. Like, there's going to be guys out there. So,
okay, so let's keep it on brand. Let's do a non-tight end premium, but we're still thinking about tight ends. Let's see what we got. Sam Laporta in a 2025 first, or Puka Nacua in a 2025 second.
In non-tight end premium?
Yeah, see, now this is one that I'm thinking, okay, I was a little far off than the consensus. Let's talk about it as without the second. Let's talk about 2025 first and Sam Laporta for Puka. Injured.
That I would do. You throw the second in and it's Puka.
So, you know, without the second, you do Sam Laporta in the first.
Yep.
Dustin?
Yeah, I concur.
And if it was a tight end premium, and the initial trade was on the board,
I would probably go to the Laporta side.
I think you got to lean Laporta, but it's closer.
Okay. I don't have anything to really add. I was just kind of curious as to what you guys would have to add. Is there anything from the comment section? Maybe your comment section will tell us. Nope, we're still. Nope. Philly got. Oh, I like this comment. Philly got damn near the Georgia defense, and look what it did last night. Yeah, no shit.
Packers have the other half of the defense.
Sure, the Philadelphia Georgia Bulldogs, baby. Oh man. Okay, so let's move along. Let's wrap it up. We got a few more trades. Let's do quick fire before we wrap things up tonight. Make it quick, under 30 seconds for each. Half PPR, Puka Nacua, or T. Higgins in a 2025 first.
Puka.
Well, give me T in the 25 first.
I think if I was planning on splitting the value, give me the T in the first. But if I was contending, give me Puka. Full PPR, we got Puka Nacua or Rashee Rice in a 2025 second.
I think Rice straight up for Puka is probably pretty close. So, yeah, this would be Rice in the second. Rice is a monster right now.
God, that's close. I would probably lean Puka, but just barely.
I only threw the second on there just because you're kind of anticipating some kind of suspension in 2025. So when you look at Dynasty lens, 2025 second kind of evens out the second half or the first half of the year, him being off. So that's where I was thinking with that. But I think knowing that and knowing that next year Worthy will have another year with Patrick Mahomes, I think I'd actually take Puka on this side. Surprisingly, full PPR, Puka Nacua or Tank Dell in a 2025 second.
Puka.
As we talked about, Nico's the man.
I'm back in. All right, I'm back in. Take Dell in a 2025 second. Stephon Diggs can't do that forever. Tank Dell is the guy. You know, Nico Collins is the one, but there's no reason to believe that Tank Dell can't be, you know, the 1B.
Hey, there's nothing against Tank Dell here, but that's right. Nico's the man.
Yeah, I'm here for Tank Dell. I'm sure our comment section, the very, very smart comment section that we have out there tonight, that's always on top of their game. Full PPR, Puka Nacua or Jaden Reed in the 2025 second.
That's Puka.
I got scorched for discounting Jaden Reed this weekend, so keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, I'll lean Puka on this too.
And that's just there's so many options in the Packer offense. It's really hard to trust any of these guys on a weekly basis.
I mean, I know we saw Jaden Reed bust out in week 1, but that's again a 1 week sample. Love is now out for the next few weeks. Who knows
if
back next that would have.
Dynasty.
I think he'll be back.
I know it's Dynasty, but again, as Joel just said, there's so many options, young options on that team.
Yeah.
They're all Dynasty valuable. I don't know if I trust Jaden Reed just after 1 week. Love him. Don't get me wrong. Love him, but I don't know if I could trust that after just 1 week.
That's all I was saying, and people didn't agree. I said that with what we saw week 1 of Jaden Reed, we saw his upside, and like you have to look at the identity of what he is. He's still a boom bust player with how many talented receivers there are in Green Bay, and like the fact that he could finish as wide receiver 1, that makes him the most valuable boom bust player. So like, sure, I'd split the value for Puka Nacua and the most valuable boom bust player in my opinion in the 2025 second. Sure. So if I like the 2025 second or a 2025 draft class, I could see myself because, Jaden Reed and Puka Nacua not far off from, that they're going to have bad games, or Puka's games are not being bad games, but games that he's missing from injuries, combined with Jaden Reed having weeks that he's just not the guy that week. I think it kind of evens itself out long term. They're both extremely valuable, and they'll probably have as many weeks that they produce as they don't. So I'll go Reed in the second on this one.
In best ball, I would consider it. In managed, I want.
Sure, absolutely. Final one. We're going to break down Puka Nacua completely, no draft picks, just players. Puka Nacua or full PPR, Puka Nacua or Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, or Romeo Doubs.
Puka.
And Romeo Doubs.
Puka, 3/4 does not make $1.
Yeah.
Why do people keep saying these are quarters, man? These are silver dollars, baby.
It's a handful of magic beans.
You can plant your magic beans for all I care, because these are 3 beanstalks. I'm looking at Romeo Doubs, all the hype about Romeo Doubs, all the hype about Jalen Polk, all the hype about Ladd McConkey. His value could.
The hype is coming from inside the house.
His value could go like that. If the Chargers went out and got an alpha wide receiver, the volume that he'd probably get would be gone. But still, the opportunity for all 3 of these guys is limitless. So if I was going to split the value on Puka for
on 3, their team, QJ.
Hey, that guy is balling out. He deserves all the credit. I will say this. I'm sorry, QJ. I ever doubted you. That was wrong on me. I'm sorry for all the criticism. You keep going. You keep it going. Okay. So what a great show. What a great show we had tonight. We broke down all the value for Puka Nacua, and we did it via our partnership over at Dynasty Nerds. So, Dustin, can you tell our viewers all about our great partners over there?
I would love to. Do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? Then you need to hear about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If what you're looking for is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their All-22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools that they offer. Head to dynastynerds.com and see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans, and at checkout, enter the code CLUBFANTASY, one word, to save 15% off of your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use the promo code CLUBFANTASY to get 15% off.
Beautiful. That's not all. You guys would think you guys have a partnership. I'd say absolutely we have a partnership. You'd be surprised. Not just one. We got 2. We got lots of partners over here at Club Fantasy. We got partners over at TrophySmack, the best place to get all your memorabilia, all your trophies, all your bling, all your rings, all your necklaces. And Dustin, go ahead and tell our viewers all about that.
Yeah, are you feeling good after your 2-0 start to the season? A championship ring or a belt to gloat about this upcoming championship is exactly what you need, and TrophySmack has you covered. Shop all their products and bask in your achievements. Head to TrophySmack.com/WOFF and start shopping today. And if you buy yourself a trophy or a belt, use the promo code WOFF for a free ring. And you guys, look at that belt that Joel has. That is just beautiful, if I may use what you said, Hoov, earlier this episode.
Absolutely. Just don't look at that. That's not partner.
Yeah.
That's not our partners. Don't look at that.
Yeah, right down there.
We don't
Look at that
promote
bad
that.
boy.
I will say, when I joined this league that was giving out the belt, that I got the belt from, it's like I was looking at the payout structure and I saw that the charge for the belt was taken out of there. I'm like, why would I'd rather just have the cash. Now that I've won a belt, all I want is more belts. I don't care. I just want more belts.
We want the belts. That's right. We want the belts. Yeah. We want the belts. Yeah. Okay. I can do this for hours. So we better cut me off.
Yeah.
But what a great show. What a great show. Thank you all to the many, many viewers that we had tonight coming by, hanging out with us for an hour and 11 or so minutes. You guys are the greatest viewers. So thank you once again.
Chat was on fire tonight. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. This is what we do this for.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys
come back every single week. We got you covered. We'll answer all your questions. Make sure you're following all of us on Twitter. Joel at the Joel Wirth, Hoov at the HoovTube. You can find myself at FF Dusty Dog. And make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL at Club Fantasy FFL on Twitter. And make sure you're following, subscribing to the Women of Fantasy Football as well at women_of_FF. And make sure you're following all the great shows under the Club Fantasy banner. Things have switched up a little bit now that we're in season. So on Mondays, we've got Mondays Hangxiety with Gator, Ryan, and Josh. On Tuesday, you got Wiretapped with Josh and Ryan. And you also have us with TradeBlocked. So make sure you're coming back every single week for that. On Wednesday mornings, you got Who's Your Caddy, Golf DFS show with Kelly and Adam. On Wednesday nights, the flagship show of No Pun Intended with Josh, Ryan, and Joe. On Thursdays, it's the Dynasty After Party with Joel and Josh. On Fridays, the Masterclass DFS show with Ryan and Austin. And on Saturday, it is Start, Sit, Different Day with Joe, Josh, and a myriad of special guests. If you watched a couple weeks ago, I was on there as a special guest. Joel, I believe I've seen you on there before.
I was on Saturday.
And it's a great time. So, yeah, make sure you're definitely checking that out. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for everyone for joining us. And we'll see you all next week, folks.